Hello and welcome to another episode of the Vital MX post-race show. And after years almost of subpar action in pro motocross, we have perhaps the most dramatic day in some time, recent memory, at least as Ironman delivered on all fronts. And we had no Jett on the podium, no Chase on the podium, and if you told someone that pre-round 9, they would not have believed you in the slightest. What everyone does believe, though, is the sheer quality that we, or the industry, receives from our various partners on this podcast, those being Decal Works, Jo Shimoda, Yamaha Motor USA, Motorex, and Fox Racing. Thank you to those companies for all that they do for us and the industry at large. Of course, I'm your host, Lewis Phillips, as per, joined by Michael Lindsay. Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
I didn't oversell Ironman, did I? It was something really special.
Yeah, exciting. It's kind of a weird one for me because I'm conflicted with. I'm not a huge fan of some of the track changes and actually being at the facility. I was a little let down this year in certain ways, but the actual what came of the event, definitely a series high in terms of interest and drama and things going on. At least in the 450 class, 250 class, a little same old, but.
Well, realistically, the 250 class was incredibly boring in comparison. Let's call a spade a spade. And on the track changes, though, I like the fact that Godzilla's gone. I like the fact that we have a true old school up and down hill. Because even Millville, we're jumping, we're doing waves. I like the fact that we have a true, you go up, hit a rock, come back down.
It's not as much, I don't mind the Godzilla thing, and it's funny. So I asked probably 12 maybe 15 riders between both classes. Not a lot of them miss Godzilla. I was actually one of the people who brought up first was Tomac, and I made a joke about being there at the Honda intro, and I'm like, yeah, even on riding a bone stock bike, it's not fun. It bottoms no matter where you land at. It just goes metal to metal. And he looks at me and goes, doesn't matter if it's just, he joked, even on his bike, it felt like that. So I ran into a few guys that told me they didn't actually miss Godzilla very much. But a lot of guys that aren't a huge fan of the evolving tree section and just kind of the overall shortness of the course and flow in places, they were just kind of, I don't know, it's lost a bit of character to me. It's all right. I same as you. I don't mind not having Godzilla, but I don't know. I like some of the original layout better. I like more of the stuff being up top. The tree section is hard to view. It's not terribly interesting.
The trees weren't added for the nations, though, were they? There'd be no reason to add, unless they, purely because they thought it would be a cool little landmark feature. I can't, there's no desire to have a tree section for the nations.
I'm wondering part of it is just to give some shit, because you can, depending how you lay out the viewing, you could set it up where people could be down there in the shade. But that's the other thing is, viewing, I feel like I'm going back even to 15 for when it was first brought in. I don't know. I think it's really hard to view most of the track now. As from a fan standpoint, as I was wandering each side, and most of the photographers I ran in felt the same, trying to split up and get around the track was really difficult, and being able to view sections and track the race while shooting was kind of difficult.
Do you know, I feel like it would have always been that way, though, because ultimately the reason for that is it's a track of two halves.
Yeah, but more of it used to be up in the top portion a bit, so you used to be able to stand up on some of the hillside and be able to look down in the valley where the start is and be able to view behind you a bit and see a bit more. So I just didn't run into, I agree with you on the Godzilla thing, but I didn't run into a single staff member of a team or a rider that was terribly stoked on the current track layout. I mean, you see it even in the press conference, the 450 guys are a little more PC how they say it, but they weren't stoked on 250 guys, all kind of were meh.
Well, before we go any further and get into all of the hot topics, those being Jett, Chase, even Eli, I think we need to give Hunter his credit because he is finally a 450 MX winner. And I even said this to Lars Lindstrom after the race. It doesn't feel as special or historic as it should because he's been so close so many times. This almost feels like this has happened 5-6 times by now. In fact, I looked this up on my flight yesterday. He is now, or pre-Ironman, he had started 19 450 rounds. 7 of those were 2-2 or better. So he's had a day like this multiple times. It's just this is the time it worked out.
Yeah, just circumstance. No, it's when you're watching and it's hard to remember because, again, he has also the SMX win. But it took me a second even thinking about this is going to be his first pro motocross win because it kind of least in a sense, it feels like he's performed like this and it should have happened by now. So he's like all the credit in the world to him, but it's kind of funny. It's not the difference of somebody stepping up and having a performance where you're like, okay, this is different. This is why they're getting the win today. Hunter has done this repeatedly and has been in this situation. It's just also been tough that a big chunk of that career has been, against how good Chase was when they went head to head, his brother and stuff. Like it's in a lot of other circumstances, different generations, this guy would have, another win or two under his belt.
I want to tip my hat to his top 5 run as well. 20 rounds all in the top 5. I think that's quite cool. It's going to be quite sad if or when that ends. I think that's almost, to me, that's cooler than him getting his first win. I don't know. I just like to see that. And even, I think I looked, I forget exactly. Again, 2450 MX starts. He's missed for the podium. I want to say 4 of those. Certainly not more than 5. I've got it here 5 times. Hunter is a phenomenal talent, so maybe that's not so surprising, and I don't even think I'm surprised, but I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Let's give him his credit. I was surprised that he had so much fight in the second moto, because he admitted after the first one he was worked, and also my mind kind of trails back to Washougal last year when he said that he was starting to feel the effects of the season and whatnot. Similar sort of time in the calendar, of course, this year, so much more time off being injured in Supercross, but curious to me that we're in a similar range in the calendar and there's these whispers again of Hunter feeling the effects. I don't know.
I think it's always a tough one. I mean, he's a bit open about it. He has, and it's fairly well known, he has more health struggles than Jett. He's on a very unique diet. He's the exact time of day when he eats, what he eats, everything drastically affects his energy levels and how he's able to get through this. So, I mean, yeah, it's hearing those comments and him saying that, it's like, okay, I guess it'll be interesting to see over the next couple of years if they can evolve his program and their schedule, if it helps Hunter long run. Because I can't remember if I mentioned this on last week's show. Like, I was talking to Hunter last weekend, because they've had such a busy schedule, particularly since they've gone 450 with doing so many off-season races and Motocross of Nations and doing trips to Japan. And I made a joke to him about how much longer can you maintain that. And definitely sounds like, as a lot of people probably saw with MXGP, there is a new Honda 450 already coming. Basically, this chassis, but with a new engine. I think when the time's out, another year or two, they will take a much mellower off season upcoming soon. They have a good full schedule this year, but I think the year or two after, we may see them take a bit of a step back and kind of collect themselves, which is well deserved at this point, of course.
Yeah, that's a perfect transition into Jett. Of course, Hunter and Jett both using Yoshimura Power. You can too. Yoshimura-rd.com to see what's available for your motorcycle. There's a lot more there than you would maybe expect. So even if you're just curious, maybe not in the market for a new exhaust system at this point, I would recommend heading over there and just, having a little peruse, educating yourself. And I feel like the sport at large was educated post-Ironman, because we now have a distinct set of rules about how to handle hitting the gate and the aftermath, which admittedly Jett was the first to hit this scenario, and you always have to make an example out of the first, and I feel like that's what we had here.
Yeah, I was on the fence because, of course, you physically see it, standing for the first corner shooting. I see him bump the gate. I kind of see it happen. You're like, okay, he twitched, he hit the gate, nothing's going to happen. Then before we're partway through the next 250 moto and around the track, everybody started mentioning like, hey, he's being penalized. And my initial gut reaction is like many you see on social media, just like, oh, come on. This is ridiculous. Like, I get the precedent set, but it's ridiculous. He lost time, blah, blah, blah. But after, they talked about all the different views they watched, and I went back, and because there was 1 or 2 videographers in our group that had the head-on shot, and the head-on shot, you can see he hits the gate and you can see him bounce back up, but you don't see his position on the gate. After reviewing the other footage where you can actually see that he is technically over the gate before the others fall, he's technically ahead. Yes, it goes terribly, which to be expected. The bike bounces back, it unlocks the whole shot device. He has to triple clutch it. That's beside the point. I as much as I hate to say it, I do somewhat agree with the precedence of the rule of, hey, the front tire is over the gate before the others were to fall. Regardless of how the rider managed it after that point, I kind of get it.
in the moment, I immediately expected a penalty because, yeah, technically, in my mind, immediately, as I say, he would have lost more time had he hit the gate, pulled back, and then gone again. So
Mhm.
it was a better, although it obviously wasn't an ideal, it wasn't an advantage. He did have a better get out emergence from the gate than he would have otherwise. So I got that, and I was expecting, 3 positions,
Yeah.
5 seconds, something of the sort. One lap certainly surprised me, and I would expect now the rule book to be amended so that there are different what do you call it?
Variations.
Yeah, but again, I don't know how you define that. Do you define it by position in the first corner? Also, I don't know how you do that. But then I saw a video last night, and I think it was front on, and I was surprised. Jett makes, from the angle in the video, Jett doesn't make any effort to actually pull back. He hits the gate and then kind of
And it's
like
the
he
only
does.
the
There's no
spring.
moment where you see him go try and go back, which I was
Yeah.
like, okay, that's a little bit more egregious.
Yeah. Well, I had somebody say that, oh, he pulls back. And I was like, I kind of rewatched it because, again, I saw 1 or 2 videos dead head on, very zoomed in within 3 riders. I'm like, the pullback is more the bike responding to hitting the gate and the whole shot device coming and clipping it, like, lurches back. So there is a moment where the energy is transferred back to him, but it wasn't, full on, put your feet down, pull the bike back and go. So, again, in the moment, I have the general outraged, even like the team was, everybody like, what the hell is going on here? This is ridiculous. After again viewing it, I'm like, I get it. We have to set a precedence. Yes, he didn't get advantage, but this falls into a very clear category, I think, of how you would define, the front tire placement to the gate. I get that.
A jump start is the verbiage.
So I do agree with that. The penalty is surprisingly harsh. And I have a tough one because you take somebody of his caliber. I think, okay, again, you said time penalty, like F1's typical one is like a 10 or 20-second time penalty. And it's like, okay, if something like that happened and you could convey to Jett, you have a 10-second time penalty. Somebody of his caliber, of course, if that is truly what's there, okay, they could hammer down and make the best of it. Because if after the moment with Chase, he didn't really, if he knew he had a 10-second time penalty, didn't give up during the battle with Chase and continued with him, even if he doesn't get around Chase, but he gets around his brother, what he gets ultimately second, and maybe the 10-second penalty, he gets bumped to fourth or something. It would be a very different story than 17th. So I don't know how I feel about the penalty. Like, I have no opinion. I'm just curious. Yeah, here's like, do they try to amend it where there's some understanding where if it's not, you're basically getting a whole shot out of it. Do you get something less egregious, or is a lap what we're doing?
Well, give him a 10-second penalty mid-race, and then he'll tell you that he didn't look at his pit board, and then we enter into a whole realm of how we don't know how to communicate this information mid-race, and the in-helmet communication discussion starts up, which, by the way, don't know when. Let's say 3-4 weeks from now. There will be a nice little story on Vital MX about in-helmet communication, because I've got a scoop of sorts.
Yeah.
I went to Feld last week and learned a lot about the future and the plans for this stuff, so stay tuned.
That's cool. I wanted you to be able to say, in my head, I was like, you could just come over a headset because something might be coming. But Lewis says there's a lot of information coming.
But also, so for the way Lars Lindstrom explained it to me after the race is, as you alluded to, the AMA were very, very fixated on, as you said, where his front wheel was compared to his competitors immediately out of the gate. There was no real consideration about position in the first turn, position entering the first turn, exiting. That was beside the point. Even I don't think halfway up the start straight was a concern. They were very much fixated on how quickly he got out of the gate compared to those around him. So that surprised me as well. And I said to Lars, the question that I have is, what did they want to see from him that would have essentially helped him sidestep a penalty? And he said that he should have stopped, like, even if he'd gone ahead, he should have stopped, looked around, like, made an effort to be like, oh shit, and then go. Which, again, even if he did that, you're kind of colouring within blurred lines almost, because how, like, is it good enough? Is it not? So I don't know how you make this so specific in the rule book. So I'm curious to see what the next
if there's some note about effort to lessen your advantage, because I also get their point of like, okay, you hit the gate, you flipped it forward, the position he's in, if because I heard somebody say, "Oh, riders hit the gate all the time, so we're just going to start handing out 1 lap penalties every time a rider bumps a gate." Well, I'm like, yeah, but if the gate twitches, somebody twitches, and you just bump it and you don't flip it forward, you actually have to physically, because now it won't fall with your front tire jammed under it. You have to physically pull back. Which, if the gate drops during that time, then you're definitely coming out of the gate later. Still, no matter what, yes, we can sit here and argue Jett didn't get a great start, but I also slightly get the point of, yeah, but if you didn't hit the gate so hard you flipped it forward, normally you'd get jammed, have to physically stop, pull the motorcycle back, and go. So you would be receiving a personally induced penalty that is larger than what Jett faced based off the circumstances of the gate. But then, what did somebody else say? And this one does, I'm trying to think if there's any reason it shouldn't. The other baffling part is, why do the gates fall forward if that's an issue?
Well, I don't think they're meant to.
Yeah, they are, but you could build a latch system where they don't flip forward then. Like when they're raised up, there could be a stop. So basically, if you did that, then everybody who hits a gate would hit a gate and bounce back.
The one thing I'm confused about is I've seen a lot of chatter online about how Chase hit the gate in Supercross and wasn't given a penalty. But if we're talking about Detroit, because that's the only one I can remember, Detroit, he hit the gate, pulled back, didn't he? He never stormed through the gate.
I'd have to go back and look, but that same thing. Somebody quoted the Chase thing to me, and I'm like, yeah, but that's the difference between the gate flipping and going versus hitting it, getting jammed, and actually have to physically pull the bike back and go.
Yeah, so if we are forgetting another instance of Chase hitting the gate that is similar to this, let us know, because I am confused. Maybe we're wrong. But yeah, to memory, I haven't actually rewatched Detroit, but it was a traditional hit the gate, pull back, go. The gate was still intact afterwards. Actually, I don't know I wonder if there was some work that had to be done to fix the gate and make it usable for the following motos.
Yeah, I don't remember. I went back, look, I didn't see it like actually come unhinged and flip, like it break the bolt or anything, but I didn't go check, I do think. Because I thought that would be
even more bizarre, because for it to go all the way forward, you'd think that there would be some damage to it, but maybe not.
You said the hinges, the gates, because the mechanics do all the time, like the gates, literally the way they're bolted in, you have a mechanical lever that holds them up that drops down that's under the base of them, but there's nothing on this side, so the gates can just go like this and touch the dirt. And that's what I was saying. If that's truly an issue, then on the same latch system that's here, like you could build a stop on the back side of some sort, I guess. I would think you could build a stop where it can't go forward of some sort.
Yeah, and mentioning Chase is a brilliant transition once more to the next topic.
The other big piece of the weekend.
First of all, in the transition, I'd like to give golf claps, because the little tussle between Jett and Chase down towards the mechanics area, up the start straight.
So good.
That is what I would show people if they say to me, "Why do you like motocross? Like, what makes it better than other racing?" And to be honest, I feel like we have lost that to a degree, especially when Jett is involved. I think 9 times out of 10, most riders would see it's Jett and go, "Okay, I'll make it easier on him," or not make it easier, but almost relinquish the position because it's Jett. A good old fashioned bar banging. I love that. That will go down as my highlight of the 2025 season, perhaps.
Do you feel like riders nowadays are too focused on technique, line selection, and stuff to be like, F it, I'm just going to drive it down the inside of this guy and slam on I'm just going to go down the inside as hard as I can and stop him in the corner if I have to. Like,
or maybe too focused on just survival.
That too,
if I really give it my all against this guy, I'm just going to wear myself out and I won't make it to the end. Like, maybe that's a element as well. Yeah. But yeah, so I guess we should also give Chase's credit similar to Hunter. Brilliant first moto. Gave a similarity to Hangtown last year, perhaps, in some manner. Great racing, great result, great ride. The less said about the issue coming over the finish line with 2 hands in the air and almost crashing, the better.
I have the photos of that.
But that was perhaps a sign of things to come. Everyone's seen the second moto incident. I'm still no clearer on what happened exactly, to be honest. Ian Harrison mentioned debris on the track. Ian Harrison also, very interestingly, mentioned that they had exactly the same thing happen in the same section last year with the rear brake in practice. So you're more technical than me. So he said that, and then he also said, we thought we had it fixed, but clearly we need to do more. So what the hell would that mean?
I don't know. I'm thinking of multiple things, because
I'm thinking the wood chip. maybe the wood
Maybe
chip
the wood
did?
chips. I mean, some people in the moment were like, "Oh, did he bend a brake rotor?" And I'm like, "Well, somebody said something about the corners before." I'm like, "Well, the corner before is the wrong side. You also do have a pretty good sized brake disc guard on their bike." Um, I'm thinking it has to be something that eliminated it from releasing because the way they come down that section, at least from unless these guys are that good at scrubbing, from my personal experience at Ironman, you have to brake going into the face of that wall, of course, as you come down to that transition. So my curiosity is something, some sort of debris, something that jammed release, whether it was in the brake lever side or somewhere down in the caliper that wasn't going to allow the pads or the piston to release it in some shape or form or allow the caliper to slide back over one under pressure. Because my interpretation, like Lapia's, hey, the wheel is locked in the air. So at some point during the braking process on the wall, it did not release. And I know some people can sit there and go, I saw some people, oh, well, maybe Chase just bozoed and let off the lever too late. That could cause some of the initial reaction of the bike. But again, even if he drug the front brake lever a little too long up the face, by the time he's in midair and he's released, at least the front wheel, it wouldn't have momentum, but at least it would start slow moving. Like it was completely locked. Something was eliminating the system from releasing its pressure. Um, it is interesting because remember a few years, a little bit different. A few years back, we had the rock smash. The at the bottom of the reservoir on like the front brake caliper, you have the piston that slides, that like opens and releases fluid flow into the cable. A rock hit that, and even though it's a casting, it pushed it in just enough the piston wouldn't move on. I think it was Tomac's bike at Glen Helen when he was at Cowie, and that's when all the teams got into making those little carbon guards for a while because it just takes a little bit of a ding to that for the piston also not to be able to move anymore.
Yeah, I just still don't see the exact similarity to what would have happened with the rear brake last year.
That's the
And
only
it's,
thing I
and
think of is
I mean, for Ian to
debris or
say
something.
that
Yeah,
means that like there's clearly something there that sparked
yeah.
a memory or whatever, but or maybe something they were aware of to a degree. I don't know. I also put it to Ian. We all know the answer to this, but I thought it was interesting. I said to Ian, like, because I interviewed Ian after the race. It's on YouTube, the same place you're potentially watching this video, and it was a great interview. Ian said as much as he could, and I praise him for being as
Yeah.
open as he could be. He didn't exactly want to do the interview, but he did it. So full props to that.
Yeah.
He at that point he hadn't spoken to Chase, and he even said in the interview, like, I need to talk to Chase first. I said to him, fair enough, you need to talk to Chase, but why can't like Wednesday we have some sort of vague statement, even if it has to be vague, explaining what went wrong and just kind of like opening our eyes a
Cleared
little
the
bit.
air. Yeah.
And he point blank said it's because we sell the bikes. We can't do that. Unlike any other motorsport, we are selling the bikes, which is, of course, we all knew that. But his explanation was very, to hear it come out of the horse's mouth, so to speak, was interesting. So I recommend everyone to go and check that out.
We need more Lars and Ians in the paddock.
Yeah, because ultimately we don't really have a need for the riders if we've just got Lars and Ians. Like, because the interviews on Saturday, it was slim pickings with riders just because it was so hot and a lot of people took off early. And obviously, Chase wasn't in a great mood.
Yeah.
Jett wasn't in a great mood. There was a lot of bad moods.
Speaking of Chase, something I was, of course, bummed. It's such a small thing, but I really wanted to see this after the second moto, after a full pull out of Chase. Is, weather-wise, so we're only in the high 80s, but we were matching for humidity percentage. Most of the guys I ran into were pretty cooked, even on the content side of us, of people on the ground running around. So I can only imagine the riders. Of course, you can see all their faces. Whether even take 250 class, somebody like Haiden, who is just dominating 250s, like they're doing everything they can to cool him off after the race. Like you can still see he's in great shape, but you can see the pain face in a way. 450s gets done. You can see it. Hunter is smoked. Jett, even after the second moto, is like, you can just see the wear and tear in his look and his face a little bit from Eli. Man, Chase after that first moto just looked calm, cool, and collected. I really wanted to see that comparison at the end of the second moto because it's little moments like that where, don't get me wrong, Eli's in amazing shape. Jett's in amazing shape. Hunter does give me a little bit extra props and respect for Chase sometimes, because I really start to, when you kind of have that tier of who you think is potentially the best fitness in the class, Chase kind of continues to maybe shine a little bit in those instances.
Well, without alarming every listener to this podcast, and I don't really know how to say this, in my discussions with Chase away from the races when we've been hanging out, I have poked around and asked questions about the physical specimen that he is. Because I too am like,
Do you
is
look
this
at him and go, "You're
genetics?
a physical specimen"?
Well,
You start
again,
drooling.
I'm trying not to raise alarm here.
Just hoping you weren't
But it's
raising
quite
alarms
interesting.
or raising arousal. Jesus.
My point being, it's quite interesting to hear his take on like his conditioning and his position on that side of the sport and stuff. Like, yeah, because he is almost in a, again, without raising too much alarm here, he is almost in a league of his own.
I don't know if you're raising alarms or arousal for yourself. I'm a
Okay,
little
so
worried.
really like that joke that we're going to say it multiple times.
I did. I just want to screw with you.
Really like that joke. Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting. I also wonder now if our wall jump's going to be there by the time we get to the nations.
Same. The part I'm trying to think of how long that's been there.
Forever? No?
Yeah, as long as I can remember, it's changed a little bit in size, but it's been there forever. I don't know. What well, to your point there, I mean, can you say you say you have that conversation, you just kind of leave it blank like that? I mean, does he? I mean, riders always believe in themselves, but I'm guessing his take is he does
Oh no,
believe like he's a.
I've never asked him that. I've more asked him the why.
Yeah.
Like, so what are you doing? What are we doing? What's the crack here? How can the normal man get this? But yeah, you know what might be an interesting story to do, and also to ask his rivals and be like, do you look like you kind of pointed to? Do you look over to Chase at the end of Moto 1 and go, fuck, like why does he look like that? It is a mental edge. It has to be.
Yeah, I saw
especially
one
on a day like that. Like, okay, Hunter. So Hunter finished second in the first moto. So for him to get that overall win, all being well, Chase is kind of the man to beat going into the second moto. So to look over and see Chase kind of chill, that's a significant mental edge. Like, I'd be curious to get Hunter's take on that dynamic.
Well, like even take 250's first moto, you could see it so much in his face. So you get Haiden, Jo, and Tom. Tom major like struggle, pain looks. Jo kind of very flat expression, but very like just like blown out. Haiden, I watch him get stuff off their porn water boots, and he looks over at the group, and he just can kind of zoom. He looks across, sees both their faces, and his face he just goes. He just like smirks and chuckles a little bit and looks back all excited. Like he can tell looking down at them, like, okay, I got it still on these guys. So you can see those little reactions.
It's entirely possible that in the post-race tent behind the podium that no one has even noticed that Chase hasn't broken a sweat because they're all too busy admiring the durability and the sheer excellence of his Decal Works graphics. And you too can get a similar quality to Chase Sexton. No comments about his graphics letting him down at the weekend, that's for sure. Head to decalmx.com to see what's available for you, a lot of customizable options, and ultimately the end result is you get the same as Red Bull KTM factory racing. Go on. Whatever you say.
I was just going to say, you find, when you're at the races, there's little places you can go that you can find and see interesting info. I know you're a big fan of the mechanics area, the pit lane tower, being able to see the messages. He's grabbing his phone.
I wrote, and you just reminded me. I made a note.
You made a note. I always see you up there with your phone out, so I imagine
keep talking.
Anyways, I was gonna say, for anybody that ever gets to experience it, behind the podium is one of my favorites as well, because you see the energy level of the guys come out to race, what they're struggling with. You get their raw reaction to their mechanics and their teams. You can tell, if they're slightly off on the bike or if they're very far off. Like I saw one of those from Jett this weekend after the first moto. That was one of the air rounds I've seen for Jett for bike setup. And he was definitely very vocal, being upset with bike setup. And I've seen him be both ways. I've seen him where he's pointing at the bike, or somebody on the team ask him, is it you or the bike? And I've also seen him, basically be like upset, but it be on him as well. So it is just kind of some of those little things you get to see. It is very interesting, gives you a little bit better insight into what's going on with these guys or their whole situation.
My favorite mechanics area moment of the week, which can be a sponsored segment if anyone wants it. So, bidding starts now, was a Bar. I don't know who the rider was. A Bar X mechanic put out the pit board, and all it said was, "I believe in you," with like massive letters. And he was pumping his fists in the air, like really like basically.
I'm guessing it was either
I
Parker
believe
or
in you
Schwartz.
like hell. And the rider just never appeared. And the mechanic just like had his board out and was looking around, like, and I was like, he believes in something that doesn't exist.
Exists. He believes in his imaginary
Like
friend that has a gun.
we're entering into like the Loch Ness monster territory here. It was just really
Oh,
funny
that's
because it was
bad.
maybe the most emotional "I believe in you" pitboard ever.
If he would
And
have come by, because I know one of them was like what the first moto. I think Parker and Schwartz both of them had moments where they were near the top 10 or inside the top 10. Oh, Parker was ninth in the one moto and crashed or whatever. So yeah, if the rider would have come around, that would have been a great memorable moment. In this case, not
well,
so much.
as a journalist of the year, turns out the rider came into the mechanics area and the mechanic didn't notice. So I did do my due diligence on this whole scenario. But yeah, he believes in him.
Oh,
Believes. He really believes.
believes so much that he wasn't
it's
going to
like
come. Wasn't even going to. He was waiting so intently, couldn't even see his rider right here behind him.
so I think we're done with Jett and we're done with Chase, yes?
Yes, as far
I
as more,
guess
yeah, yeah.
my only other observation is I would have asked Chase about this, but I felt like Chase was the only guy really utilizing the outside at the top of the Godzilla hill
Yeah,
early in Moto One when he was, and I liked that because I was like, oh, okay, interesting that he's gonna. I mean, I can't really see much in the sector times, mainly because the sector is so big that what
yeah.
does it really matter? But I felt like it was quite creative and useful. I was surprised more guys didn't follow his lead, although eventually, Chase got into cleaner air, he too went back to the inside.
Yeah. I saw it in 250s used a bit by a couple guys, a little bit in WMX. I just like the consistency with the outside because everybody was trying to, decide like where they were going to double up to the inside, how short they were going to come up to break. And as notchy as the rut looked on the inside, I felt like the inside, had a chance issues. Like even what happened was it Chase went inside the one lap where he spun out coming out of it, almost down the hill?
I don't remember.
Yeah, he crashed coming, I think, out of that corner almost down the hill from the inside because it was so slick on the exit. I just like the consistency of the outside. Just carry your momentum up, three up, and just being able to not have to fight with guys trying to, again, find that perfect combination of where do I land off the double, how short do I come up, trying to get in that notchy inside. I do like the Chase was doing that.
Okay, so we're done with Jett, we're done with Chase. So back to the 450 MX podium. We're going back to the future. I guess we better do RJ before Eli, but not a surprise. RJ has been superb, consistent, fast, improving each week. It makes complete sense that he was there to capitalize when some of the elite stars had issues. So I don't think that this should be a moment of immense celebration for RJ. Instead, I think this is a moment to kind of take a peek at what's to come.
Yeah. I thought it was cool too. Listen, RJ on the podium, he mentioned, there was kind of the question to him like, did you know this was going to happen? Were you expecting this to happen? And he said something along the lines of, well, I had to make sure I wasn't a liar. I said I would be here by the end of the season. But he also mentioned like, that self-belief. He's like, I believe I could have done this 4 years ago. I wanted to do this 4 or 5 years ago. But, he goes, I have a family. My job and to get a good paycheck was to stay in the 250 class. He goes, I couldn't. And he kind of changed how he worded it. He almost said lucky that he won the 250 title. But he was like, no, I earned it. But he goes, I finally got the opportunity to win the 250 title, prove I'm here. And he said something that kind of strikes with me because, it comes back to how long we've had some of these guys in 450 class and some of the guys in the middle that have never gotten their 450 opportunity, even with 250 titles or near 250 titles is RJ said he feels, it's very hard to earn a good ride in 450s. It wasn't financial. He was talking about like equipment, everything. Like it is so hard, even if you're one of the best 250 guys, to earn the opportunity to be in a competitive 450 spot, to even earn the opportunity to try to do it. And I think that was the big thing from him. He's like, I would have loved to do this 4 years ago, but I still had to earn the opportunity to even do this.
This is my favorite RJ stat of the weekend. It was his 111th Pro Motocross start, only his 13th podium. I feel like if you polled everyone in the world, everyone would presume he's in the 20s at least. I don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe makes his 450 podium even more poignant because, he's not had many of those in 250s. So this stands out even more. So good job to RJ. Yeah. And also, RJ, of course, uses Motorex. Motorex, known for high quality engine oils, also has an entire line of clean care and lube products to keep your bike running strong and looking great. Maintenance made easy with race proven Motorex clean care and lube products. On to Eli. And there are many puns that I am enjoying. I'm writing an article at the moment, and I'm going to give everyone a peek behind the curtain at the puns that exist within my article because it's brilliant. So he had a pant issue in the first moto, as well as
Yep.
being sick, hence his fade. So my subheading: Eli caught with his pants down at Ironman, because that means you're, I don't know that's an idiom for something. Like if you're caught short kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then Eli Tomac was pantsed, both figuratively and literally, in Moto 1 at Ironman. And I messaged that to someone this morning. And I sent them a little screenshot, and I said, look at my very, very, very clever article. And they said, this is literally your worst work. Stop saying it's clever. But I'm proud of that. So I wanted to give a joke out.
Was this your Mr. Miyagi that said it was your worst work?
No, I wouldn't have said. He would be disappointed in the joke. I would never tell him.
You already knew what response you'd get on that.
But no, so Eli was very sick by the sounds of it, because Eli's not one to even talk about his weakness. So for him to be so open with how bad he was feeling, clearly it was significant. A pant issue in Moto 1. Not his best day, of course. Second moto was reasonable. I don't know. I guess we just look at those issues and we kind of give it a pass, but I don't know. You know what stands out to me? Eli has not finished in the top 2 overall since Thunder Valley. That's my takeaway from Ironman. We are further away from that silver medal at this point, and you can't even say, well, Chase came back and Jett and Chase are better, because that statistic is relevant pre-Chase and post-Chase.
Yeah. I have a tough one with this, because we talked about it after Washougal, even though he was positive. It was like, okay, the gap's still pretty decent, a few things. I mean, and also he's very good at Washougal. At least this is, I feel like, better than, of course, where we were by quite a bit than at Millville, but it's still not what's expected of him, of course, and it's still a decent bit of room to work with. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it.
I want to start calling.
We were at least right. What Moto 2 was decent, because what was he? Was only from Jett. He was like somewhere under 15 seconds.
He stalled it as well. He stalled it.
So I mean, if it wasn't for the stall, he might be under 10 seconds. So I mean, second moto definitely showed progress, but
I want to start calling some comparisons to Lewis Hamilton in Formula 1. I feel
that's a pretty big margin. Lewis is like completely.
No, I'm not talking about going that specifics, but let's just say a broader picture of fighting for comfort with machinery whilst also fighting Father Time, whilst also, like it's just a little bit of a, I don't know. I mean, that also speaks to how brilliant Eli is. You could take that as a compliment.
Could be interesting, because you go off, definitely peak years with Star to the end of Star, fighting comfort like he was at Mercedes. Lewis goes to Ferrari and, basically gets trounced by his teammate, which I don't know. I guess you could use the partial comparison with him going to KTM. It'll be interesting to see if the comfort comes or if it's still a Father Time thing, but you don't have the teammate comparison. But I know
ultimately tricky machinery combined with no momentum makes for tough sledding, is ultimately my headline with across those two disciplines or sports. But yeah, another podium for Eli. So he's had a fair amount of third places now. But yeah, I would have expected more top 2s. Let's put it that way. But again, there were very worthy excuses very worthy reasoning at Ironman. So there is that as well. And of course, Eli Tomac named to Team USA alongside Chase Sexton and Haiden Deegan. So from there, stories are plenty everywhere you look. Let's go to Jorge Prado, who is a beacon of positivity now, because I don't really understand how, but on Saturday morning, before a wheel had even been turned on the track, Kawasaki just figured out a magical solution to his engine problems, and it worked. And everyone was very surprised, because in talking to both sides on Friday, no one had any optimism for this being an improvement on Washougal. In fact, everyone I spoke to, again, I spoke to both sides, were like, yeah, this will be worse. We've made no progress. Like, maybe that helped. Maybe entering an event with such bleak expectations kind of made the positives seem even grander than they were. But Prado essentially said that Ironman, the race day, was day one for him. It was the first day where he felt that he had a base that he could work from. The power delivery was much more akin to what he would have expected. Interesting as well that Prado, from what I understand, the abruptness in which he gets on the throttle out of the corners when he lands off jumps is not like anything Kawasaki have had previously with Tomac or anyone. The data is very much telling that Prado is a unique beast in the way that he rides a motorcycle. And I think I said this even earlier in outdoors. When Prado says the bike isn't fast, he doesn't mean I can't whole shot on it. He means it's not fast in the specific areas that I'm looking for. Yeah. And it seems that they finally figured that out.
Talking to some guys on the team, I know, a comment from, like, say, take like a Tickle that's been there for a few years. He said this is the fastest bike they've ever produced in terms of power, even versus I think the outgoing engine design. But the power of the Kawasaki is a slower build. So yes, the power is there, but it's maybe not initial. And there's a difference between somebody like Jorge and Jett that we both think of as low RPM people. You have somebody, Jett, who's momentum based and is very like fine little openings, blipping through stuff. Jorge, from what I hear, and I went to the team and asked the same thing. I'm like, look, I interpret his as RPM comes down to near bottom in a corner, and then he just smacks it to near 100% instantly. There's no roll on character. It's just throttle opening does this. And basically that's what the team commented. Yeah, his openings are extreme, harsh. Like he doesn't use the throttle through stuff. He wants these big openings. He wants to use it to make the bike react in a certain way.
It explains why other riders have commented in the past that they wouldn't be able to ride with his setup because they would essentially, I'd imagine to other riders, it's essentially a loop out setup. Like, how am I meant to manage this power out of a corner?
Yeah. I am curious what the final, example of the saying was, because I've heard this from testing with him from some of the team is, they'll do changes and get just feedback that's kind of like, that's not it, but no real like direction, or they'll do big changes and get told it doesn't really do anything. But then I've also been told there's been a couple times where they'll make a change that's this big and he'll come in and be like, that's huge. That's what, like that went from unrideable to good. And I've heard that comment of like, so when you say, it sounds like there's a little bit of a surprise from their group that, hey, whatever we did going into this round was a big change, I guess. Even though they may not view it on paper as a big change, it doesn't shock me based on the feedback I've been told for the last like 2 months based on how they've tested with him, like what he reacts to sometimes. Sometimes it's something that's extremely small is something he's looking for, where sometimes the wholesale change is like not effective in any shape or form. It is interesting just from an overall storyline standpoint, though. Like I said, we come into this race, nobody's happy with each other. Multiple people you talk to are just kind of the point like, hey, we feel like since Southwick, we've just made no progress. We are rolling around races. We're not trying. Like, this is terrible. Of course, it gets to the further point about the hints flying around about a KTM possibility and talking to people about that. Everybody's kind of talking about it, but off record. And then we go into, the best weekend they've had. We go into the most positive situation we have. And I also want to know how much that situation weighs on this of, okay, maybe we just like, again, doubling down, everybody buckles down, because it seems like it's bridging on the point of chaos, of completely falling apart, and somehow they all buckle down and it actually turned around.
Yeah, and it'll be very curious to see what happens at Unadilla, of course, because we have been in situations with Prado this year where we felt like there was a sign of life and it ultimately ended in nothing. To your point, yes, the KTM rumors exist at the moment, quite prevalent. I'm very, very confident the conversations have happened behind the scenes, but I feel like those are still casual conversations. I don't think we're really at crunch time yet where there could potentially be, or let's say we're on the verge of something big. I feel like we're in the casual stage, and so there isn't, people are probably like wanting the truth. I don't think there's necessarily a truth to the rumors yet, because it is just in the conversations have happened without doubt, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, the simple side of it is like I had one other team manager come up to me on Friday and basically say, hey, it's a done deal. And I'm like, And I mean, talking to both sides, no, it's explorative. Like, again, you have Kawasaki's side that they haven't officially talked to Jorge about it, but they know that through other channels the conversation has happened. You talk to certain people towards the KTM side and they say, yes, some sort of conversation has happened, but it's, there's so much a rider would have to figure out, like, can it's one thing for exactly so it's one thing for a rider to say they can get out of their deal and come ride, but there's a whole nother process of actually pen to paper and any of that ever coming true. So like I said, to your point, like it's what's the old saying?
Casual.
Like it's casual. What's the old the joke from Dumb and Dumber? You're saying there's a chance.
They're
Like,
in the talking stage.
in the talking stage, very early talking stage. But again, the process of it would be very unique, and something still to touch on is I've asked repeatedly, and outside, without knowing all contract details, the very simple answer I've been given is outside of a rider fully buying themselves out of a contract, which I don't know if that's just buying out the current value of this year or what that is. It would be on the team to release, take Kawasaki side, which they do have verbiage in their contract that would allow based on circumstances and things that have been said. But as also the most old adage of our sport goes, if they're in the talking stage, but if it ever gets to the point they actually want to do this, it'll happen because every team says this. Why would we want to continue working with a rider that doesn't want to be here? If that's where they eventually want to be, okay. But also when you talk to like, hey, he hasn't said that yet. It hasn't been said to us. So until that time comes, we're just going to keep working.
From a cinema perspective, and me saying this in no way means that I'm hinting that this is going to happen, or just purely similar to the Bar X mechanic, let's just do a I really believe in you moment in something that doesn't exist discussion. Imagine Prado goes to KTM. We start 2026 Pro Motocross. Everyone's healthy. It's a stacked field. Prado comes out, goes 1-1 dominantly. Just that would be cinema.
Yeah.
But again, that is just, I'm literally just spitballing. He could come out on a bull taco and go 1-1 also. Like, that's where we're at. It's that again. Yeah. Okay, right. We've done all of the big stories, so let's hustle. Very impressed by Ferrandis. And from what I hear, I think the chances of him being on Team France are increasing slightly. It sounds like Renault is very much out. And it also sounds like Tom Vial is very much out, is kind of the vibe that I pick up. But yeah, very impressive from Ferrandis. And I think, honestly, he's criminally underrated. The same could be said for Malcolm. I was impressed with his dig in Moto 1. He went from 16th to 9th, which, I think that's good for Malcolm. And it's a charge that you will never notice because it won't be shown and it won't really get much applause. But I thought it was good. Cody Schock is dealing with rear brake problems because he's putting so much emphasis on the rear brake that it's essentially failing him. Rider error, not mechanical failure, in his opinion. So I think they're trying to figure that out. And in a similar token, Valentin Guillot needs to figure out his approach to Pro Motocross because he left after Washougal, didn't ride at all because he was in Switzerland, got a red eye into Ironman on Thursday night, landed 2 hours before press day, and then raced. And also, his red eye, he was in economy in a middle seat, which is a if I'm not doing that to cover a racer's media, no, sorry, I need to go in early because I'm not going to be able to cope with that. So I don't know why he thought that was a good idea.
Hey, at least he is locked in on SM. Yes, he made it to 20th this weekend. Cody's breathing down his neck, but I think they're both they'll both overhaul Hill at the rate they're going. If they each keep scoring around 18 to 22 points a weekend, they will overhaul. Guillot will definitely overhaul Hill. So if Cody nudges up even closer and nudge them, they both should overhaul Hill, who's in 18th. Potentially with good races, they could even track down Harrison, but Guillot's in, and unless something, there's nothing really that would bump Guillot out at this point, right? Because Koulos isn't going to, from 20 points back, isn't going to make it happen. Fine. He's good. Cody just needs him his way in, which is either the only thing that could happen to Guillot is Cody overrides him, but then both of them, like I said, should run downhill. Shane, even though Shane's was rough, he gave himself just enough breathing room, and then doing the next two, he'll be able to stay in. If he hadn't, he would have been cutting it pretty close too.
And a similar token, Kyle Webster, who made his 2025 Pro Motocross debut at Ironman, overheated in Moto 1, hence why he didn't start Moto 2. And I've also just remembered to end 450s. I don't know if this was on TV, so if it was, tell me, I'm curious. There was a moment in Moto 1, it would have been near the end, I think Jett was third at this point. He came over the wall jump and kind of, what would you say? The curb on the side of the track, his front wheel was off of it and the back wheel kind of was still on the track. And oh my God, in that split second, I was like, Jett Lawrence is about to ride into pit lane flat out, and this is going to be catastrophic. Like, honestly, I don't know if it was on TV, but seeing it in the moment, it wasn't like there's a mistake. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so bad. And actually, I wish I could have interviewed Jett because I want to know. I mean, typically riders have those moments and then just shrug it off and go, oh, it felt fine. But in the moment, I was genuinely like, that was close.
Yeah. My one other comment on that, back to my behind the podium comment. After the first moto, not so much unless people are very, very friendly. That is also one of the best things. After the second moto, once the results are what they are, every one of those guys, regardless of how hard they've battled that day, unless they've cleaned each other out, they will look at each other and be like, I almost died here. Did you almost die here? No, I almost died here. And that's the conversation for 5 minutes, is all of them comparing the 4 or 5 places on the track they almost died in their worst moments, and they just laugh about their own misery basically together.
On to 250MX, which was once again won by Haiden Deegan, 1-1, a dominant showing, I would say, especially the way he handled Jo in Moto 1, which was maybe a bit of a surprise, given Shimoda's momentum. Honestly, there's not much to take from this. Deegan is the best rider in this class, Shimoda is the second best rider in this class, and the results tell that story. At the top, I'm not sure there's much to really analyze or dive into.
No, the only comment I would make is, of course, we know Haiden now 100% officially is going 450 next summer. And I mean, this makes sense. He's continuing to dominate the 250 class. What is left to learn? And, rounding out the season a little better. We've looked at historically last couple of years is typically after Washougal, the later part of the championship. It's not bad, but it's been his weaker point. So to come out with a very dominant performance again at Ironman just continues to show his progress. And yeah, again, ready to move on from this class. There's not much left to be here. But also in Jo's case, very good for Jo with Haiden leaving, because it really feels like Jo is starting. We've seen these flashes of brilliance from Jo, these good results, but to see it just continues to be more regular, just to get some consistency going, will play wonders for him next year, especially as they get ready to announce his extension finally with Team Honda HRC Progressive. I'm a big fan of it again, even though there was the PC opportunity. I didn't really want to see him go back, with it finally getting to the point that he's having these results consistently. We know he's capable of it, but...
Yeah, and speaking of Haiden extending with Yamaha, that's of course a massive deal for Yamaha Motor USA, because everyone wants Haiden Deegan's signature, and the fact that Haiden bought into the blue program so aggressively and clearly believes that's his best shot at success and taking down Jett Lawrence and Chase Sexton says a lot about what Yamaha Motor USA are doing over there, and of course a wide range of motorcycles available. So head to your local dealer or see what they have that could maybe quench your thirst for competitive action. Whatever you want to do in your riding days, whether that's race, practice, off-road, trails, whatever you want, quads, Yamaha has it all. So head over to your local Yamaha dealer or online, whatever you want to do, and check that out. Thank you to Yamaha Motor USA for their support. Of course, I alluded to it previously, but I quizzed Tom Vial on the Nations on press day, thinking that he would be a shoo-in, because who else is going to race MX2 for France other than Tom Vial? And he was very quick to point to the other good options. And I was like, no, but you're Tom Vial. Like, let's stop. And then finally he said, oh, well, I have a very busy off-season coming up. There's a lot going on for me, which effectively tells me all I need to know. I don't expect to see Tom Vial at the Motocross of Nations. Of course, if you've been living under a rock, the big things going on in the off-season are a move back to MXGP with Honda HRC. Speaking of Honda. So, yeah, I don't expect to see Vial there. And truthfully, I think France are going to have a fairly mediocre team that may squeak top 5.
So who's their team going to be at this point? Because, again, I agree with that. I think Dylan's going to end up doing it. 250, because you have a lot of guys come out of contract. There's the... Huh?
Valan.
Okay, I was say.
I mean, I don't know, but that's got to be. He's a
yeah, because Valan's been better than Benistan. Benistan's probably moving on. Benistan's aging out, isn't he?
Yes.
Is he? Yes.
And you wouldn't want to take him anyway.
Yeah, and then 450's Renault departing his effort. Will he go or no? With him departing Yamaha?
I don't know if that's why, but it doesn't sound like he's going. And I don't know if that's because of injuries, potential team switch, or just general not in the mood.
Is that a weird one for them? Because it feels like, France, of course, was on an amazing run, not only from results, but from the ability to still pull together a team for years. Of course, they are it is a very, motocross centric country, but they've always been able to straggle together. I still go back to the year that they won MXON with Christopher Charley on the bike, and he also won ISDE in the same year. Again, a story I don't know it's ever still been covered well enough that Charley pulled both those off in the same year. But they've always been able to put together a team where at least they're like you at least go, okay, they got a shot where, yeah, it's not happening. God A. Pollen was at the race. I know you got to chat with him for a while.
Oh. So I'm really making an effort to be a better journalist, which includes those familiar with the MXGP podcast. Adam Wheeler is brilliant at just realizing the potential for stories and then executing. So I didn't know Paul Allen was going to be there, saw him and was like, right, execute, Lewis. So text him and said, interview? And he said yes. So did an interview about what makes Team France great, which is very interesting. I didn't realize the input and support they have from the government, the president, that Paul Allen had to do exams to be the team manager of Team France. Like, who knew?
Like Team France about the history of France, or just like
I don't know. He said he had to go to school for. He said it's normally a 2-year course, but because he was an athlete at the time, because he was still racing, he was allowed to do an accelerated program, which was, I want to say, 14 weeks. So this is all fascinating. The reason he was at Ironman, yes, scope out the track, all of that boring stuff. He said that he was staying in the hotel that Team France are staying at, and each morning he will run a different route out of the hotel, so that if the riders say, Gautier, I want to go for a run, he will go, okay, here are 3 options. This one has more hills, this one's shorter, this is safe. That, honestly, that blows my mind that Team France are that invested. Like, fuck. Fair fucking play, honestly.
Oh, good.
And then also did a massive interview. It was an hour about the similarities between Prado taking the biggest contract of his career and just not finding happiness at Kawasaki, and Paul Allen doing the same with HRC, and unearthed a lot of interesting stuff there that I've actually reached out to Honda about and said, hey, can I run with all of this? And they said yes. So stay tuned for that story as well. It may be a little while down. To be honest, the Paul Allen career stuff will come in November or something because there's no rush for that. But the Team France stuff I'll put out quite soon. Anyway, interesting. No, and just, yeah, interesting. First moto, Marchbank's charge. Oh, fuck me. Superb from so far back.
That's been him like every other moto this year.
No, but
it's
I feel
insane.
like that was even better. I don't know. That was amazing. Maybe I just hadn't noticed how far back he was.
He's done that he's always had to come from a little back, but he's had 4 or 5 this year where he is coming from literally 30th. And I made a joke with him a couple weeks ago. So, of course, he's still in Southern California riding during the week. And we've joked about it. Like, Fox Raceway during the week is a shit show these days. Many kids on the main track. Even watching him, whether it's like Juju and Ryder D there, anybody, like, as bad as it is, everybody complains about California. I do think there's a small part of it that has helped Garrett just keep the most insane intensity while passing people. Like, he just spends all day, every day at Fox, passing 10 to 20 people a lap and never backs off, takes whatever weird line he has to. I think his big thing is he's a bigger guy. That guy will send the outside on every section. He just looks for momentum. He doesn't try to overanalyze and out technically ride another rider. I think everything in his view and mind is, how do I just carry momentum through a section, and just executes no matter how pretty, how messy it is. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, I would agree. And also, the amount of riders he passes, there are so many competitors that get to enjoy a good look at his Fox Racing gear. With a rich heritage and deep racing DNA, Fox Racing has been at the forefront of motocross for 50 years. They empower the world's best athletes like Jorge Prado, Ken Roxon, Levi Kitchen, and Jo Shimoda, to name but a few, to chase their dreams. With their gear, dreamers become champions. They honor the past while inventing tomorrow, pushing the limits of racewear and protection, because at Fox, change is the only constant. And actually, there will be no change with Garrett Marchbanks for next year, as he is expected to return to Pro Circuit. Drew Adams was so much better. And I just want to ask you this on Drew Adams. Has this been good, or dare I say acceptable?
Up until this point, I don't think so. Like, the results have been so up and down. Like, he's had motos where, there's an 8th or a 7th or a 9th, but they have so often been followed with a moto that just doesn't make sense. Maybe there's a crash at the beginning, but I've seen him regularly just all of a sudden one moto have a fairly solid performance, and the next moto, unexplainably, we are in 17th the whole race, not making passes and just kind of looking mediocre. So this has been, I think, this has been what's been more closer to expected of him. Especially, this is really the first time he's put together two motos. I think are relative to what's expected of him, his talent.
Harrop overheated in the second moto. Although his charge wasn't as impressive as Marchbanks, they kind of came through together. So Harrop also deserves credit for what he did in Moto 1, but maybe he did a little bit too much. And in more Triumph news, Faulkner injured his hip in practice, dabbed his knee, and it kind of made his hip go all awkward. So he was questionable for the motos. But once again, Faulkner, his charge at the end is impressive. We talked about Chase and how fit Chase is. Maybe we need to start running some tests on Faulkner, because he is, honestly, no matter the round, no matter the position, whether he's at the front or the back, he is making serious moves late on. Like, he deserves credit for it. He has to have credit.
So funny one. There's an interview section with him that popped up from Jason's podcast where he commented Austin, and he was just talking about how hard outdoors is, and he basically said at the end of every outdoors he feels like he has heat strokes. I don't know if that's relative. Like you said, you hear his fitness, and I hear your Chase comparison. I think part of his Austin just must be really good at digging into the old saying, the hurt locker, because he comments that at the end of every outdoors he feels like he's going to die, but apparently he's just willing to dig, which is always respectable.
And then in more Triumph news, Jalik Swell sustained a suspected muscle injury in practice. Wasn't, again, uncertain
like
whether he was going to ride.
Muscle or?
Yeah, they think, but it seems very they're doing checks today, Monday, as we record this, to see what's going on.
But he was going through the airport yesterday morning. From his knee all the way to his ankle was fully wrapped, and he was limping pretty bad.
I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him until 2026, to be honest. But Faulkner is, of course, fine. And Jordan Smith, oh my God, he cannot have a silent, consistent day. It's one or the other. And actually, that reminds me, I want to look through his career and see how often his pro motocross days have had one moto in the top 10 and one moto out, because I think
a lot. I think that's why his
overwhelming majority.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of common consensus. I hate to say for him, but there's the flash of brilliance followed by. And I feel for him too, because I feel like his are always wrapped up. Like I kind of made the Drew comment. I've seen some guys, they'll have that good moto and then just kind of a mediocre moto. His other moto is usually not mediocre. It's just followed by just chaos. Just straight chaos.
Wrapping up here. Anything else on 250s? I feel like we've done a fairly adequate job of wrapping up Ironman.
I think we've done it. Let's see here. I got to take the quick scroll. What was the other one I was going to say? I'm still a bit baffled by, especially because they're kind of there. I mean, where are we at with Beaumer, DeFrancesco, program-wise? Kind of the two of them have just both. They've had a couple okay weekends, but I've been a little shocked. It doesn't seem to quite come together for them.
Beaumer did one day of outdoors and was very forward in my interview. He wants to win SMX. He believes he can win SMX. He is back for gate drops for SMX. Like he said, I am winning SMX. That is what I am fixated on. So there's that. And then Vida D seems to be very start dependent. And I feel like what I'm picking up on is his bike is slow, and that, not to start a Prado situation. And that's why he's not getting starts consistently. So I don't know. I don't know. It's because, to be honest, I'd have to look into it. He does seem to be starting finishing where he starts.
I have a great counter argument for that. The result's not good, but Lux Turner's been starting inside the top 10 to top 5 on a B spec engine package from KTM, and I know Ryder's got a lot more than that.
Well, again,
they're about the same. They're about the same build size. So
remember, I declared myself a Vida D.
No, you're right. I'm not saying no.
What did I say? I'm there with him for some reason.
But yeah. To your comment earlier, I look at Jalik's result. I think Jalik has, of course, proven still why he should be here. I mean, if he's also got the thumb issue that he basically isn't able to ride during the week. I would say at this point, yeah, Jalik probably can just go. Where's he at in SMX points?
Who, Jalik?
Yeah,
24th, 25th?
24th, shit. I was going to say, I wonder if he could just skip the last two before SMX, but Because no matter what, even if he were to have, even if he had 2 really good rounds, I don't think he's seeding in. So do you take the last 2 off and just get ready for SMX? If it's not a major injury, if that's kind of the level we're in. You know what I mean? Because I'm reading, it's like, okay, Schwartz is sitting in 20th, but Schwartz has had really good races lately. But then Cole Davies is up. Davies is up 58 points or something over Jalik, 55. Like, pretty good margin for 2 races.
I think Jalik's done.
Yeah.
Anyway,
a couple other oddball ones. I'll say, like, again, there's been a bit of Schwartz had an weekend, but had good moments. But Parker Ross was 9th in the first moto for 20 minutes, I think, before he crashed, and he got 7th in the second moto. So I believe he'll be back with Bar X next year, but it's a lot of progress for, this is Parker did. I'd have to go back and look if he did 1 or 2 nationals next year. This is his rookie season in terms of pro motocross. For full season, he's been just kind of continuously building every single week.
He's been very good, and he was good in Supercross as well. I think that was very underrated. He was quietly effective in Supercross. Just to our comments, we had 2 guys turn pro coming out of Loretta's. Cade Johnson got 20th overall, 34-16. Who's the other one coming out of Loretta's? We had one other kind of more. I can't remember. Did you see Brody Connolly much during the race? There was high moments. Dazia came over for your Reeves team. Is he New Zealand? I think he's New Zealander. Is he a New Zealander or an Aussie?
Oh, I think he is New Zealander. I think you have that right. I'm an idiot.
Look, there is a lot of Brody Connolly hype. There is a lot. Feel like I've heard that name for a very long time about how he is basically the next big thing out of New Zealand. Or Australia, we'll figure that out. Oceania, the next big thing out of Oceania. And I don't know. But then also we know, with all due respect, that perhaps the Quadlock Honda 250 isn't the most potent machine outdoors. So I'm reserving all judgment.
Well, here's the shocking one. I remember maybe around Millville or something, I was talking to Dazzy about Connolly, some of the Aussies and New Zealanders in general, and it mentioned somebody else said, "Oh, I heard Connolly might finally be coming here next year," and I feel like I've heard that for a while. And Dazzy actually kind of hyped up, about the kid's capabilities, and he mentioned he's like, yeah, he was honestly, when we were younger, he was one of the most heads up against him and Jett racing each other, and I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, oh, they're basically the same age. And it kind of took me back for a second because, again, with Connolly not having made the move yet, I thought he was younger than he actually is. Not that he's old, but he is basically...
I think you would also probably presume Jett is older than he is.
A little bit, but what, is Jett 20 right now? I think that's Connolly's...
22.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I think Connolly 20... I think Connolly's 21. I think he's 21 right now. I'd have to double check.
There's a lot of Brody Connolly hype, and I'm very curious to see how this goes.
Yeah, well, again, part of the hype I heard was he was basically just as good as Jett when they were coming up.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
Right, that's it. Another episode of the Vital MX post-race show. Thank you to Decal Works, Yamaha Motor USA, Yoshimura, Motorex, and Fox Racing for all of their support. We will be back in 7 days' time to discuss Unadilla. Thank you for watching and listening, and we will see you real soon.